Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sligo Show with myself here, Brendan Tierney, and we're here again in the lovely Baymount room in the Business Centre in the Radisson, and I would like to thank the guys for letting us use their lovely space. I'm very excited actually to join with these two fellas who I've seen from afar around Sligo in my time in Sligo, and even lately they're doing a cool thing called the Recovery Tour. So I'd like to welcome Joe Shannon and Georgie Gorman. You're very welcome to the Sligo Show. How are you all keeping on this lovely Saturday morning?
Brendan, thank you so much for the invite. It really, I do watch your show and I think it's brilliant. And I think it's brilliant for the local, that you highlight all things local to the area.
I've watched you on telly more than you've watched me now.
That, but honestly, kudos to yourself and Brian for the work that you do. I think it's fantastic.
It's been enjoyable. It's enjoyable for us as well. So I suppose to dig straight into it, I got to chat to both of you. To Joe, so anyone that doesn't know you, give us a little brief from childhood to now. What's the background of how did you get to be where you are?
The biography starts in Coventry, England. 1965 was a great year for the world because I was born. And my mum and dad, my dad was just passed away literally about 3 weeks ago. Mick Shannon was a great fiddle player, originally from Fermanagh. My mum, Mary, she was Mary McAndrew, was from Mayo. My mum was a nurse in England. My dad played a lot of music. He was a great fiddle player, played in bands and stuff in England, but he also worked as a blacksmith. He grew up, he had a very interesting life with his people. But anyway, they met. There was 5 of us born, and in 1972, my dad then decided and mum that they wanted to come back to Ireland. It was always the dream. So 72 was the year. And they moved to Ballina in County Mayo.
Oh, okay.
And it was massively exciting, I remember, because we used to come on holidays.
Massively exciting now. You wouldn't often see people saying that.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely, it was. And I always remember our first day arriving in Ballina, because my uncle Martin McAndrew, Marty Joe as he was known, he was an auctioneer in the Mart in Ballina.
Okay.
And when we arrived off the train in Ballina, we had to get the key of the house. So we all went to Ballina Mart with our suitcases in the middle of the cow's dung. And I thought this was brilliant. So honestly, I can't believe everything.
You've never really seen it like that, I presume.
No, not at all. And he had the key of the house. Anyway, so we moved into Ballina, Muirdax Terrace in Ballina. And we lived there, I think, maybe 5 years or so. And during that time, I told Georgie the story before we went down to Muirdax Terrace. There was a bakery in Ballina. And I was fascinated. For some reason, I was drawn to this bakery. And every evening, I used to go down to this bakery, annoy them all, just watching in the windows and stuff like that. That eventually, bit by bit, they brought me into the bakery. Now, it would never happen in today's world. There was nothing malice in this.
When things could happen.
And I sort of started doing little jobs in the bakery, sweeping the floor. I felt like I was a great man. And from that, then I used to watch the confectioners, and they brought me in. They taught me then things with piping bags and bacon and all that sort of stuff. And I suppose then we moved to Inniscrone, which is beautiful Inniscrone, with this fabulous beach and everything. And we lived in Inniscrone for maybe 7-8 years. Absolutely fantastic memories growing up in Inniscrone. And like everybody else in Inniscrone at that time, kids and all the rest, we all had summer jobs, during the season to earn a few bob. And my summer job was working in Clark's Cafe in Inniscrone. And back in those days, you didn't have frozen chips or anything like that. So my job was making chips.
All right.
So it was a sort of an area off the restaurant where tons of potatoes came in every week. And my job was to put them through a machine that peeled them, put them through a machine that took eyes out of them, sliced them, and then you...
So hold on, you weren't doing anything at all, so you were just doing machines all the time.
Yeah, blanching or whatever.
I thought it was just going to be like Angela's Ashes story of peeling all day.
No, it was that. But the funny thing was, at the time, Mrs. Clark was a fantastic lady. She was paying me, I think it was about £6 a week, right? Which was the standard sort of wage. But I had done a deal with the veg man, Eddie Corcoran. He was from Ballina. And if I could save any of the bags that he could reuse, he'd buy the bags back of me. Oh. And I was earning £15 a week for the bags.
In the money, so.
And the money, so it was great. And from there then, my mum was working in St. John's. She got a full-time position then in St. John's Hospital here in Sligo. So the practical thing was to move to Sligo. So my family moved to Sligo and I went on to catering college in Kiddybeggs, which was, the start of my chefing career, I suppose, really. But it really emanated from Ballina and Inniscrone, really.
Quite a prestigious chefing career. I mean, I know a lot of people know you from the TV. I always see, is it as stressful a job as everyone says it is, or... When you're a chef, when you're born to be a chef, do you just thrive on that stress? Would you find it that way, or would you find it was tough?
there's no job that doesn't have stresses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd hate to be in the medical profession, and that's no disrespect. I have massive respect for people in the medical profession. But if you're that consultant and that someone's life is in your hands,
you couldn't handle
that's
that.
stress, you know. But I used to always say to the teams, you know, always remember, we're feeding people. They're coming to us. They're actually honouring us by taking money out of their pocket to eat our product. And they're putting their livelihoods in our hands, because if we don't run a professional kitchen from a hygienic point of view, whatever, you could actually kill somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. But was it stressful? Yes, there was stressful days, but I loved every minute of it. I'm out sick now for the last 2 years, but I loved every minute of it. I was here at the Radisson as executive chef for the last 20 years. I don't think there was a day I didn't want to come into work.
Well, that's nice.
You know, even with pressure days. And look, like with any profession, there's great days, there's, you know, tough days, whatever the case is. But there was far less tough days than there was good days. Okay. You know, working with a great team all around that they had here in the Radisson. And, you know, when my moment came where I needed their support from a personal point of view, when my illness came, they were there for me like you never seen. So I can never sort of thank Inua Hospitality, my colleagues at the Radisson Hotel, for all the support they've given me. Okay, well, it's a nice journey. As I said, you're a real well-known face in that Sligo, but that's come through your own positivity and your energy. And Georgie, can we get your, again, for anyone that maybe not be aware, I mean, as in, I know of your music career, but again, I wasn't in Sligo maybe when you were really like at peak, but, you know, a bit of a celebrity, Joe, I think, in the music world. Would that be right in saying?
Hey.
You're probably not going to sing that same hymn from the, you're not going to say,
I don't
describe it as that.
I don't go down for that kind of stuff, you know, but my story is simple, Brendan. I came from a family of 14 kids, 8 girls, 6 boys, and mother and father. Worked hard, obviously. My father was born in 1920 and my mother was born in 1936, but they passed away in 95. And we had a lovely life growing up, you know, the kids in the house, small house with a lot of children.
That's what I was wondering, like, what is it? It must be like either, is it tough or is it great fun in one sense, having so many in that little space?
Well, we didn't only have the family at our home, we had everybody else's kid in the street, you know.
Okay.
So they used to come in for whatever was going at the time, and they were hungry days, like, you know. I mean, going back when I was a kid, there were hungry days because in the 70s and all like that, you didn't, obviously there was no videos or mobile phones or anything like that, you know. And anything that you had on the table, you had to work for. In some cases, beg for.
Would you remember it as being tough and sad, or would you remember it as like,
at the time,
you didn't take much notice because that's all it was?
No, at the time, you know, it's very tough. Yeah. Because you're a kid and you don't understand it, you know, because if your father and your mother are trying to support 14 children, I mean, can you imagine now today, even in today's world, trying to support 14 children, you know, that'd be a nightmare.
No.
Never mind financially trying to support them, but, you know, mentally and physically trying to keep them going every day, schooling and everything like that, you know, clothing and everything. But
you'd have to hire Joe in the mornings to do the breakfast.
we got through it, and then we got into the later years, like into my teens and all like that. I started playing music when I was about, like I said, there was 14 kids in the family. My father was a bit of a harmonica player, a nice singer. My mother was a nice singer. And then I started picking up the guitar at around 10 years of age. Okay. And a friend of mine had this guitar that we used to play. And when he got a new guitar, he handed me the old one. And by that stage, there was only one string left on the old one. So I became Jimi Hendrix on a one-string guitar.
Okay, that would be an interesting achievement to see.
Yeah, for a while, you know. And then I was known to be playing the one string, but I didn't know at that stage that you had to have 6 strings on the
okay,
guitar.
Right, this is amazing. Chords. What the first day you got a 6 string then? What were you like, oh my God, this is amazing.
It was like, you know, the universe opened up for me, you know. And we used to sit, there's a place in the Wainbridge called there in Sligo at the bottom of St. Joseph's Church. Well, I used to sit there across from Sidney Gallagher's pub. And there's a friend of ours who used to play over there in the pub, and we used to sit there at night, listening to him playing. And I learned how to tune the guitar by listening to him, because I used to hear him.
From outside?
Yeah, at that stage I had got the 6-string guitar, but I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know how to tune it. I didn't know what it was. It might as well been, you know. So I was listening to what he was doing and the songs he was playing and bits and pieces. So I started picking it up from there. And then as I got into a bit older, I started listening to Neil Young, the Eagles, Queen, whoever it was at the time, you know, ELO, especially ELO, you know, all them bands, you know, James Taylor, all that kind of stuff, you know. Sligo bands, you know, some of the great Sligo bands that come out of here, Irish bands, Tin Lizzy, you name it, you know. And then before I knew it, I was getting drifted and being pulled into bands to play, you know. Fella to hear me in a bar and he'd say, oh, you're not too bad, you want to join a band? And I thought it was only joking, I thought it was messing, you know. So eventually anyways I said yes, and the first band I ever joined was Francie Linehan, Terry Linehan, and a fellow called Billy Kelly, and it was the name of the band was Lilac Wine. And their band previously to that maybe was Southern Comfort. You'd remember Southern Comfort.
There's like a drink theme going on here now with the sponsor.
But Southern Comfort were a really famous band in this country at the time, you know. They were a great rock band. I mean, if you went to a gig with Southern Comfort and you listened to the Eagles and you heard the lads doing it, it was every tune that you could hear on the radio, the lads had it.
We could do it just as good.
You know, you know.
And then you moved on up, like, I mean, you've recorded your own material, and what for you is one of your best gigs, best memories, or, you know, meeting someone you really always wanted to meet?
Myself and Joe was only talking there for the last week or two about one of the bands that I got involved with was a band called Zosimus. That was a traditional rock band. And we won the Live at 3, the RT Live at 3 Search for a Star back in 91, you know. And that was a big thing. That was the X Factor of the day, wasn't it? You know, that was the X Factor of the day. And if you won that, you were propelled, if you like, into, you know, a bit of stardom. Yeah. Which,
and how was that for you, being a star?
I never took to that stuff.
Didn't like it at all? Some people really don't like,
No, I still don't, and I wouldn't even tomorrow, like if whatever was to happen, I just don't get it. I have never got it. Never. Yeah. You know, it's just not there. And that's the way it is with me. But I started playing with the lads and that went on. And we won the competition RT, and that threw us up into a different kind of an atmosphere altogether where the gigs became better. Like we were playing a lot more healthier gigs, if you like Bad Bob's in Dublin. We used to fill that place and all that kind of stuff. And the GA Centre Noma, we were on RT an awful lot. We done like that. There's only one star. There's not only one star in the house tonight, but we done all that kind of stuff. And we used to do a show called the Jerry Kelly show in Belfast.
Oh yeah, seen that.
And we were on that quite a lot, you know. And in between that, I suppose I'd be playing with the lads here in town, like the likes of Shamie O'Dowd, Jerry Grennan, Francie Linehan,
such
Jamie
genius
McGowan.
talent around.
Yeah. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out.
Don't worry, we'll tell them afterwards. Yeah. It's all on video now, George.
We now know who your favourites are.
I'm sure, you know, all the lads, all the people, and Kieran Quinn, obviously, you know, I've done all the shows with Kieran Quinn for the last couple of years, and bits and pieces, and done a couple of videos, and you know, before you come out of one thing, and then before you know it, you're heading into another thing.
Yeah,
you know?
It just kind of keeps flowing, I'd imagine, when you're in that sort of
There's
zone.
always something coming along the line, you know. There's always something happening musically, you know. Wherever you look around you, don't close your eyes, because before you know it, you're into something else. That's been my experience.
Yeah, and I mean, you're obviously here today with the recovery tour, and I mean, you both had your journeys with cancer, and it just seems that's nearly okay. We've cancer now. Let's still fall into something positive. Like, it just seems to be your go-to personas, I suppose I should say.
Yeah, well, that's how myself and Joe came together again. Because Joe was saying earlier on that we knew each other at a distance, if you like, for years. You know, hey Joe, I'd see Joe at a gig or two. I wasn't too sure what Joe was doing. I know he was a chef. But I didn't know. He was a chef.
I got used to looking windows of bakeries.
No, I didn't know he was at the height of his chefness.
You're just making new words there.
And then it was about 2 years ago, maybe Kieran Quinn. Was it Jordan Crawford?
Before lockdown. It was before lockdown.
Before lockdown.
The 19 one.
Yeah, Kieran asked us to do the show in the car park. And
that was during lockdown. Excuse me, last year.
So we met during the gig in the car park. Joe sang his song, I opened up and sang a song, and it was a tough gig, wasn't it?
It was,
because we were sick, obviously, you know, we had gone through the treatment and all like that. And then when we come off the stage that night, I can't remember, the two of us got speaking anyways, and we said, you know what, let's meet on Monday, we'll go off for a spin, something like that, wasn't it?
That's it,
And we went down, I said to Joyce, I want to show you something down the country, down in Galway.
Good side of the country. Like.
Down in your country, well, County Galway, down in the Quiet Man Cottage.
Yes.
In Man Valley, down there, on the border of Mayo and Galway, if you like, right? and not far from Peacock's Hotel, if anybody's interested. But we brought Joe down anyways, because you had never been there before, had you?
Couldn't believe
You know,
Wow.
and this is the Quiet Man film. John Ford, and Maureen O'Hara, Victor McLaglen, all them, you know, Barry Fitzgerald. You know, it was made in 1951, and it was made in Cong in County Mayo. But I had been a fan of the film for years, and a lot of the people that would have been involved in the film, the older people I would have met, you know, and there was a man called Mike Ward, and he was a man who set up Save the Quiet Man Cottage, and basically it was to get the cottage built again and the whole lot,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So they've
Built up
regenerated
again.
the whole, renovated
Regenerated and get tourists to the thing, but it's not happening at the moment for different
Yeah,
It's actually
reasons.
very sad. You go down there and you just see it.
see it.
Because I know the train station is actually near my house where I live in the
Yeah.
country, and they've done a massive project to regenerate. and all that.
Ballyglunin.
Yeah, Ballyglunin is only
Yeah.
up the road
Oh, I
from me.
know
Yeah.
well.
So you met that day. That was like the first little tour you went on accidentally.
Yes.
And I suppose just to go, I know you're kind of keen to highlight, you know, the cancer. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to get too deep, but I'm just kind of, you know, can you give us a synopsis of the day you found out cancer to what it's been like living with it at the moment? I'll ask you first, Joe.
Yeah. For me, it was 2021. Excuse me. Lockdown was on. All the rest of it. It was our second lockdown that we were in here at the hotel. I was very fortunate that I was part of the lockdown team in the hotel.
Okay.
And we were one day we were doing these Zoom meetings. Everything was Zoom that time.
Yeah.
And we were doing a Zoom meeting because it was sort of expected that we might open that June. And we were having a whole sort of a corporate management sort of meeting where we were looking at what unique selling points we could have when we opened in June, that we could have, you know, what we could do, and all this sort of stuff. And as the meeting, and that would be something that I'm normally really enthusiastic about and whatever. But at that meeting, all of a sudden, I started getting stomach cramps and you know, a very, very bad sensation of wrenching and all that sort of stuff. And I honestly thought it was maybe something I had eaten, or was it just, you know, some sort of an upset stomach. And that literally went on for 2 days. And literally by the end of the second day, Mary, my beautiful wife, said, look, I'm bringing you into the hospital. You need to go in, because none of us wanted to be annoying the hospitals at that time, because they were really under pressure and all the rest. So I did, and all the rest. Went to the hospital. They done tests, and the bottom line was I met with them. Absolutely genius, fantastic. I don't know how I can say it any higher. Surgeon, Mr. Martin Caldwell. He's based there in Sligo General Hospital, and his team. And the reality was, he says, look, after the test and all the rest, he says, we see a blockage. We need to do emergency surgery and all of that. So we did, and I think he said I was on the table for about 6 hours. Wow. The next day he came to see me, and he says, look, the reality is we've taken the tumour from you. You were very blocked and all of that. And he says, the tumour, is basically it is cancerous. Okay. And you know what? It was sort of it wasn't a huge shock to me in the sense of, because I remember my turn round, I said to him, thanks be to God for that. And he said, no, Joe, I don't think you're listening to me. I'm telling you it's cancerous. I says, I know. But you see, I cooked myself a meal 2 days ago, and I thought I had food poisoned myself. So how was I going to go around and
very
tell
bad story.
Yeah. So that was my reaction.
Yeah.
So I suppose by the time I finished my recovery from the operation, I was the whole, I suppose, getting used to it had really settled with me.
Yeah.
I think it was tougher for Mary and the kids most, and my family, my brother and my sisters, and my dad at the time, who was alive, and that was fine. So the reality was then that I had to go to oncology. Unfortunately, the fantastic oncologist, Mr. Martin, wasn't available in Sligo at that particular time. I think he was out sick. And so I ended up going to a fantastic man in Dublin, a man by the name of Professor John McCaffrey. And he basically said, look, we're going to take you in. You have stage 3 cancer of the bowel. And he says, what we're going to start you, we're going to flush you with 12 sessions of chemotherapy. And, once that goes, hopefully that will kill off any sort of maybe lingering cancer in cells that's there. And you go and live your life. You come and see us once or twice a year, and we'll just keep you under observation. But at the same time, while we're doing that, we're going to do a head-to-toe check on you just to make sure that there's nothing else. And they did. And unfortunately, they found a second tumour that was on my liver. So I was 2 sessions into chemo at this stage. So they suspended the chemo to allow me to go into surgery. I had surgery. They removed, I think it was 20% of my liver. And that was fine. And none of that, you know, as dramatic as it may sound, is not abnormal for somebody who gets bowel cancer.
Yeah,
so it's quite normal. And the fact that I had moved on to my liver meant that my cancer now had moved from a stage 3 to a stage 4, rating, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And that was fine. We had the liver operation. Everything went as it did. Fantastic job done by a Professor John Keneally, Galway man, neighbour of your own. And it was fine, but unfortunately, and it can sometimes happen, it doesn't always happen, but it just unfortunately happened to me. I got a very bad attack of infections, internal infections. And these infections sort of went on for literally nearly 8 months post the liver operation.
So were you quite ill with those,
Very
or
much
was
so.
it just something going on inside?
No,
really
very, very ill. At one stage, I had 3 drains coming out of my side that were trying to clear out this infection. I was in ICU. I was anointed. The night I was anointed, and I tell this story to lots of people, I actually, either in my, drugged, fueled in scenario or whatever, I'd like to think it was true. I, at one stage, saw a vision of my mother, my late mother, at the end of the bed smiling at me. And when I woke up, I told the doctor that was there with me, and I said, was that drugs or what? He says, I don't know what it was, but he said, what I can tell you is you're a miracle man, because we didn't think you were going to make the night.
This is how long exactly?
This was last summer, so this would have been around August of 22. Of 20, what are we now? 23. So 22,
right, so not that long ago at all, yeah.
Yeah, 22. And he says that all your vitals have reversed. They have now become positive overnight. And he says, we can't answer this, but this is strange. So he says, I'm a medical man. I deal with medicine. But he says, I can't answer what's happening there, but something strange has really, really happened.
Wow.
And I came out of hospital and all the rest of it. And I resumed chemotherapy then in the October. That went on until the April of last year. And in the April of last year, I got great news. I went up, I met Mr. McCaffrey, I'd done all the necessary tests. And he said to me, look at Joe, the reality is you have stage 4 cancer. You'll always have stage 4 cancer, but there's no evidence of disease. So, there was no evidence of disease in me. And that was great. That's the news any anyone on a cancer journey wants to hear. And that was great. And then during that summer, as Georgie rightly says, the two of us were sort of recovering. I wasn't feeling great. We had started the recovery tour, and I was saying to Georgie I wasn't feeling great. And Georgie said, we just go into the GP, get yourself into that GP and get yourself checked. And I did. And they done all the necessary tests. And with them and the oncology team, after MRIs, CT scans, PET scans, it was found that my cancer had returned to my bowel. And this was quite unusual for it to come back in the exact same spot where the original cancer was. The unfortunate part was that they were unable to proceed with surgery, which would have been the ideal situation, that, like before, they would go in, take out the cancer that was there and flush you with chemotherapy. But because of all the complications that I had with infections, they were now not able to do that. So it wasn't an option. So I then went through 6 very heavy, very, very strong sessions of chemotherapy and came out of that. And then I met the professor then basically 2 weeks ago. And what they have now told me, I suppose my most updated situation is that my cancer is incurable, that my prognosis is that I have to have full-time chemotherapy. If I don't have full-time chemotherapy, my life expectancy will be 6 to 8 months. With chemotherapy, pending how the body reacts and all the rest of it, will give you a couple of years anyway. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
what does that feel like to, you're living this? What was the feeling like when you got that exact?
Well, I think Georgie would tell you the same. When you're on this journey, and I know you interviewed Deirdre, who gave you a fantastic interview.
Yeah.
I think they would tell you that you yourself must probably feel more than the people around you. So what it does is, I sort of knew in my own heart of hearts that things weren't right inside.
Yeah.
I really did. And I think, they say to you, never look up the internet when you have things like this, because it's not that what's on the internet is wrong. As the oncologist said to me, the problem is what you're reading may be outdated.
Yeah.
So you may not be reading something that is current. Okay.
Yeah.
But everything I read always sort of led to the one sort of I suppose
the outcome.
to the one outcome was that in what I was describing of my illness and my symptoms, and this is very much my symptoms. I don't want people out there getting panicked who may be on a cancer journey. Was for me and my symptoms meant that sort of the prognosis was sort of a 5-year expectancy from diagnosis. But of course, there's exceptions in every sort of rule, and who's to say mine won't be any different? So that's what he said to me. How do you feel? To me, it was calm, but it's very hard. Obviously, I'm married, and my kids, and my brother, and my sisters, and my friends.
Yeah.
They, I think, get a bigger shock out of it than I do.
Do you kind of go, I'm really fearing that day when it eventually comes, or are you going, I'm more worried now, look after the people that are going to be here? Which way would you say?
For me, it certainly has become an emergency on me to get certain things done at home. I want to live whatever I have left, and to fulfill as much as I can in the most positive way that I can, that my body's physicality will allow me to do. Yeah. But it is harder on those around you. They have the hardest part. And I always think through a cancer journey, and George most probably would agree with me, the patient really, I think it's harder on the people around than the actual patient.
Do you probably get a certain resilience that you can never understand until it happens almost?
I'll tell you what it is. You're in hospital and you're 24/7 being looked after by the Mr. Caldwells and the Mr. McCaffreys of the world, by great nursing staff, by great people in the hospitals that you're in. So you're getting 24/7 attention. And in both our cases, our cancers were treated during the height of the COVID. So, there was very massive restrictions on people.
Difficult.
Like, none of my family could come to visit me. I could meet them. They used to come to Dublin. I'd meet them outside the hospital. And because I was so weak, you were only physically able to see them for a couple of minutes because you were so weak. Anyway, that was that. But I just think it's harder on those at home. They have to wonder. They're wondering. They're not getting an up-to-date, especially under those circumstances. And I think it's harder for them, to be honest. Mary just lost her beautiful mother a week before I went in for my liver operation. So it was tough. You know what I mean? It really was
you lost
tough.
I
lost my dad then in January, and that was tough. Like, he was a great age, fantastic man. Okay. But, of course it's tough. When you lose a parent, it's very tough.
At any age, no matter what
age
they are.
Yeah. And, I'm blessed to have great family around me. My immediate family and my extended family. I'm blessed to have great friends. So death doesn't scare me. Yeah. I think what scares a lot of people when it comes to death is how they're going to die. And I think that is more of a fear for people than actual death, because the reality is we're all going to die. There's 3 things in life we're sure of. We fulfill one of them. You were born. Yeah. The other one is you're going to die. You cannot control any of that. Yeah. And the third one is you pay tax.
Have you paid all that now? We'll get that settled up.
You have no control.
We don't want poor Mariam to settle this big tax bill.
Well, you do. The minute you buy a bottle of water, there's a tax on it.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I mean? So you do. Yeah. But I suppose, there is, for me, it's a certain, maybe I see it in the sense that it's a certain privilege I've been given, in the sense that, and I hope to God you don't get news like I got, but I now know, subject to some accident to happen to me, I know roughly about how much longer, I have an idea in my head, how much longer I have left. And I have that privilege to live my life.
Know that and to use it rightly. Now, I mean, sorry, George, I know we've limited time here, but I know there's probably a lot of parallels in the journey. But can you tell us just briefly what is the cancer you've had, or what it's been like for you, the journey?
Look, I go into the hospital, I'm not feeling well, I get diagnosed with cancer. Go in on a Monday, get diagnosed with cancer on a Tuesday. Go to Galway, go through the treatment. No doubt about it, it's been tough treatment. Anybody that's gone through it will know it and all like that. I think that when you do get cancer, when you're diagnosed with it, I think your world changes, because yesterday you were in one world. Today you're in a different world, you know, because you got your diagnosis now, and as Joe was saying, you're unsure of what's going to happen. And I think what we do is we remove ourselves in a way from the picture. We're not thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
My first thought, and Joe's first thought, and I'm sure anybody else that's gone through cancer, would be for their families, children, especially people that has, you know, kids, family, and all like that, you know, wives, spouses. And that's their first duty is to look after them, obviously, you know. And I think because it's like anything else, believe it or not, you get used to it, don't you?
Yeah.
You
It
actually
becomes
get used to it.
your norm almost. Even if it's
Yeah,
not what you
does.
want.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. What you're saying, it just become your norm.
Yeah.
It does
And like,
become
when
your
people
norm.
meet you, I've often asked this, would you rather, I'm sure people go, oh, I better not ask. Would you rather people ask you about it, how you doing? Or you just...
I don't want anyone, and this is a great forum for us, sorry for interrupting, George, but I the last thing I want is pity. The last thing I want is people.
So you'd rather say someone, tell us how you're doing,
Absolutely,
not like, oh, you poor devil, how are you doing? And then go, tell me about the match,
but
or talk
Brendan-
about this.
But Brendan, in the early days, right, when I was diagnosed and I came out of the hospital and all like that, you know, there's a flood of people who's coming up and saying, hello, how you doing, are you all right, and all that, you know, and like in my case, I had lost 5 stone in a couple of weeks, you know, and all that kind of stuff, you know, and people are kind of sitting back and going, oh, will I say hello to when I do it, will I do that?
Because they would have said hello any other day.
Yeah, well, in our case, because Joe's well known, I'm fairly well known as well, and they would have, you know, no matter where you go into town, people are going to know you in some shape or form. It's only a small town, but the whole thing about it was that then I found that as you're going along, people are getting used to you having the cancer, and they go, oh, Georgie, how are you? And then a day or two later, and then it gets, you know,
They'd probably start slagging you about something.
it actually does. It starts to balance itself out, where it's not so important to people anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I could say as well, Brendan, I think it's something that, you know, we touched on. We have this blog called the Recovery Tour, and what that has transpired to be is something that, you know, we're not great in Ireland, especially males, you know, men. We're not great at talking. We're not great at openly talking about friendship and stuff like that. And what has helped both George and I think we can speak for both of us, is that we have formed, through this nucleus of cancer, we have formed this really close friendship, and we can talk to each other. We talk about everything from...
Very open, I'd say.
Very, very open. And believe me, you know what I mean, things like, you know, from sexuality, you know, sex to finance to whatever.
Taxes.
You know, taxes, whatever, the whole lot. And I think, you know, on that, if I may just say, if there's a great message I can get out here today, is for every person out there watching this, if you haven't done it before now, go make an appointment with your GP. Get yourself a standard medical. They take bloods. If you're a man, they will check your testicles. They will check your prostate. A little bit uncomfortable for the first time.
It's not actually. I've got it done the last years, and it's not. And none of my friends that I know.
It's not as dramatic as it sounds when you go in. It's what is it? A minute maybe of discomfort, if even that.
Well, it's a true sin, isn't it? Your health is your wealth. So what you do for your health, you know?
And by doing that, getting those tests done, you know, I didn't do it early enough, being honest. I really didn't.
Do you think if you'd had those checks years, it might have just flagged a bit earlier, do you think?
I honestly can't answer that, but I honestly do think it would have made a difference, because there was bowel cancer in our family history, but on my mum's side and on my dad's side. So maybe if I had something like a colonoscopy earlier on, they may have, you know, found something and been able to save it. Who knows? I can't go down that road.
You'll never know, obviously.
But what I can do is say to people, go to your doctor. If you've never done it before, no matter what age you are, once you're an adult, obviously, if kids will be led by their parents, but once you are an adult, go to your doctor, organise that basic, you know, health check, and do it once a year. All right, have a chat with your GP. They will. We have great GPs here. And the other thing, if I may, Brendan, is think about health insurance. I know even if you're in your 20s and you've started a full-time job, think about it, because the younger you start these things, the cheaper it will be for you. And think about things like insuring your wages, because I was very fortunate that I worked for a company called Inua. As part of my contract, I had health insurance included on my package. I had pension plans. I also had a fantastic thing called long-term illness benefit, which basically means I earn 70% of my gross wage. Because it's 70%, I pay less tax, which means I have a net wage which is equivalent to me working, which is fantastic. I don't mean that as sort of how great am I.
No, I know.
But what I'm trying to say is, you can imagine someone middle-aged or a young family, and the main breadwinner gets sick, and they don't have the comfort or the security of what I've had, and they end up going from whatever their wage was down to the government's €220 a week.
Yeah.
Now, you still have to juggle a mortgage. You may still have to juggle feeding your kids.
It's difficult to deal with the illness and then go,
Yeah,
now we're
and now you have
really
that pressure.
struggling with a lot more pressure.
So I think that's an important message for people to consider. It's not for me to say or tell people what to do. All I ask is that people consider that. You know?
Yeah, one other thing that I want to say, Brendan, is that since we set up the recovery tour, I mean, as you were saying, this started from the Quiet Man College in Galway. We were just taking a few photographs, turned on the video, took a 6-minute video, and we was talking away, and we said, we'll call it the recovery tour, we stick it on Facebook, and then before we know it now, we've almost over 400,000 people
I've visited our
viewing it,
Wow.
you know, and they're coming from not only Ireland, they're coming from different parts of the world. And when, as I was saying a minute ago, when you get into that world, you don't realise how many people are going through a cancer illness, you know, and their troubles and their this and their that and the next thing, you know. So we have had so many people, haven't we?
We have. And it, to be
contacting
fair, it's not even people with cancer.
Yeah.
You know, my oncologist said to me, what you don't understand, Joe, is you're two people, ordinary people. We don't pretend to be medics. We haven't got a clue about medicine. We haven't got a clue about psychology. Honestly, we don't. But what we portray is that we're two people who are actually going through that cancer journey. We're not pretending that part of it.
Yeah.
We're two Egypts, you know what I mean? Great friends, you
now,
know what I mean? No, genuine. And we go off here, there and everywhere. But somebody in their hospital bed who's maybe just starting this journey out halfway through it are looking at that and saying, God, they were where I was 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
And I can be where they are. And that's what it is, you know what I mean, to a lot of people. And we get messages from all over the world, from people who tell us their stories, people who thank us because they were in very dark places and it seems to help them. But we didn't set it out to be anything other than two fellas just having a blog.
Some of the best things happen.
Yeah, but that's the way, if you watch the videos, that's the way the videos are designed. They're designed basically for people who is in a hospital bed, as we've gone through it, and 3 or 4 in the morning when you can't sleep because you're sick. And it gives, first of all, hopefully it gives people encouragement. The other thing is, it kills an hour, you know, during your day. Because when you're in a hospital for weeks, that can be a long time.
And Brendan, like I look here, you have what? I see about 14 cameras in front of me here. You have a whole team of people, production managers and everything there.
Oh yeah, huge.
It's huge what you have.
This is called the magic of TV.
I see your executive producer, Brian, there.
He's also the cameraman, the editor.
No, but it's fantastic. Georgie is a genius. He does this off a little phone.
I see, yeah, we're actually impressed.
I'm
saying it, showing it to somebody.
Pretend that it's, he does it and he edits off a phone. You'd understand the work that goes into that.
We were in Dublin last week at the KTEX
exhibition, catering
exhibition. And there was a lot of guys up there with really good equipment, real good, real cameras, you know, Hollywood stuff, you know. And I was there with Joe with her little phone and taken. I just felt very kind of embarrassed.
But you know what, your content was probably much more engaging and enjoyable than half the stuff that was.
We didn't set out to be anything. We didn't set out to be what they call it, influencers or anything like that. We put up a video one day, as Georgie says, where we visited Kong, and Georgie put up on his page, and all of a sudden, wow, this thing just went. And then we just went from there, where we branded it, and it's just organically done its own thing, and it could all change tomorrow, and if it does, so be it. You know
but I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, I know we've kind of loosely said maybe we might go with you for a day.
We'd love it.
It'd be great crack. I mean, I'd love to chat to you for 5 hours today, but I mean, we're obviously restricted. But like, the recovery tour is on Facebook. That's where people can go and check you out.
And YouTube, Brendan.
On YouTube as well. Okay, well, that's good. So we'll put up the links afterwards as well. But I mean, I only half know you from afar, and probably vice versa. But I read a great book by a monk. It was called The Art of Living, and it's like, it basically summed up like, you all have, like, you're all magic dust, we're all energy, and every time you do something, whether it's a show, whether you cook someone dinner, whether you play a gig, you leave a bit of magic dust on them. So that's in their memories. Do you know what I mean? So even when we're all gone, what did I do in this life? Absolutely. And you two have definitely seemed to have, how would I say, used the time here so far amazingly well, and you seem to be nearly getting more enthused and more energized. And I mean, when you said you were anointed and you came back, only Joe Shannon would probably do that because
they didn't want to listen to me up there.
From watching you on telly, you know what I mean? You can just see the devilment and the crack, and I'd say you light up any room. And Georgie yourself, I know you've lit up many people's lives with music. So you know what I mean? I think that's the thing is, it's not easy what you're going through, but you know, I always say to people like, what do you want to do? I always say, live a life less ordinary, like, you know. So you've done that and you're still doing it. And as I said, what you're doing now is brilliant fun. And I believe you might be taking part in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, or is that a top secret now?
Well, no, it's not. We're blessed because our good friend John McSharry from Glencar Water, and I'm not trying to be promoting, but it'll be fair to him.
Turn away that other bottle.
Yeah. Sorry, John. Has a beautiful Bentley car.
Okay.
And he's going to chauffeur drivers through the parade.
Open top as well, is it?
It's a
people
it's
can
this
throw
beautiful
flowers at
converter thing. They can throw flowers
or stones. Money accepted. Yes.
I know. And we want to thank John for the generous offer.
Lovely.
And yeah, it's fantastic. And look again, it's not us trying to promote Joe and Georgie. We just want to promote the message.
It's a lovely project, as
know.
you said. It can just touch us so many people. So look, it's been a joy having you chatting. As I said, I wish we could chat to you all day, but we'll definitely do that little trip.
Absolutely,
I think,
and we look forward to it. Yeah.
And thanks for coming in, sharing your story, and well done what you're doing. It's amazing, and keep up the good
Brendan,
positivity.
thank you, and thank you to your executive producer Brian and all the team here.
At the camera.
Thank you for what you're doing, because what you're doing is very, very important. Whether you realise it or not, it really is important. And thank you for inviting us along. Because
look, it's really enjoyable for me as well.
I'd like to say thank you to all the people in the hospitals who have looked after us up until now, and our families, and then friends who's wished as well, and all the people who's come contact on the recovery tour. We're really thinking of you. We like to think that you're getting some kind of, as you call it, solace or encouragement of what we're trying to do. And as Joe says, we're just two ordinary Egypts trying to just get by and get away with it. And if we can,
it's working so far.
That's all we're doing.
Very good. Yeah. Well, guys, listen, the best of luck. We'll see you around. We'll see you at the parade, and so we said we'll get for a little road trip ourselves.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
so that
everybody.
was Joe, Shannon and Georgie Gorman from the Recovery Tour. As I said, it's on YouTube and Facebook. It's been a pleasure chatting to them. Thanks once again to Brian behind the cameras, executive producer, cameraman, editor, etc. Thanks to the Radisson for letting us use this lovely room in their business suite, and we'll see you all next time. So if you liked what you just seen, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel here. We've loads of great interviews from a load of really interesting people over the series. And if you're on social media, which I'm sure loads of you are, we are on Instagram and Facebook, so give us a follow there.